What if Vegeta was in the Gargoyles cartoon universe, part 23? It's been a while since that incident with the necklace turning Zanatos' wife into a werewolf, but now it's time to get on to better things, such as a wedding that's supposed to be happening. Vegeta doesn't really understand the reason to have like a ceremony for something so trivial. Him and Bulma got married in a court, in which no one else but them knew that they were legally married to each other. He doesn't understand the spectacle. But there's at least something that catches Vegeta's attention. It turns out that David is going to be asking Goliath to be his best man at the wedding. Now, Vegeta doesn't truly understand why, considering he felt like those two were enemies of sorts, but who is he to judge? And he also gets news that he's going to be meeting a female gargoyle as well. Vegeta doesn't know who that person is. All he knows is it's going to be another gargoyle at the wedding. He doesn't feel right about that for some reason. Not about there being two gargoyles, but he feels like something about the second gargoyle is going to be shocking. David's all suited up to go and ask Goliath to be his best man, and he's really gonna need it. Vegeta found it quite amusing by watching on the sidelines as David and Goliath are fighting one another, because David did not assume that Goliath would attack first. And it is amusing, to say the least. When David basically tells Goliath to be his best man in his wedding, he also brings up the name Demona, and for some reason in the pit of Vegeta's stomach, there's something about that just doesn't feel right. Vegeta then looks at the female gargoyle and automatically recognizes her. This bitch is the reason he's here to begin with. Demona herself is a little bit off guard that the man that she brought into this world is standing before her. Demona is only a little bit curious about how Vegeta found David Zanatos, but she has other plans right now. Vegeta is thrown into a loop. The wedding was going just as it was supposed to, and then they end up just going back in time, apparently. The bits and pieces of information that Vegeta could get was Demona was trying to convince the younger version of herself that Goliath was going to be their downfall, but all he could see was a freaking hypocrite. The anger in her words, the pride she had in herself, it was almost like looking into a mirror. And he doesn't like what he sees. What if Vegeta was in the Gargoyles cartoon universe, part 24? As Demona left, all Vegeta could feel as he watched her leave was he felt so uncomfortably familiar with her. Vegeta would be lying if he didn't have similar sentiments to humanity. They are weaklings in his eyes. But his wife and his son may have given him a different perspective on humanity. But he has a feeling that Demona specifically is just using her hatred of humanity as a shield for not taking responsibility for her own actions. Vegeta knows what it feels like to just give into your hatred for power. He did that specifically to kill the source of his hatred. But when that source of hatred died, he felt completely empty. What if Vegeta was in the Gargoyles cartoon universe, part 25? Vegeta looked at Demona for a very long moment and debated whether to just capture her and force her to take him back home. But another thought came to mind. He felt like he had enough excitement for today, especially with all this new conspiracy stuff. But he did get a lot of amusement watching as David Zanatos' father basically just gave him a penny. And he just felt that was just so amusing. Vegeta kind of agreed with David Zanatos' father about how he didn't really earn his money. It was more of a situation of events that gave him his wealth, basically. Vegeta decided that he's just gonna let the couple do what they do and go off and get some rest, because it's been a very long day. Vegeta really wants to get some training done today. He really didn't get very much of a challenge yesterday. He really wasn't fighting per se, it was mostly just observing yesterday. But he also had to make sure that those two idiots didn't get themselves killed somehow. Specifically referring to both David and Fox in that moment. Vegeta notices that he's not the only one in the training facility right now. Fox seems to be doing some general exercising, and she's also doing some fighting maneuvers. That punching, kicking, the typical stuff. Her footing seems to be really well done, at least to the average watcher, but to Vegeta, he's frustrated. He looks at her stances, and it's like he is micromanaging every single movement that she does, and he's noticing every single flaw. Vegeta's frustration finally takes a peak, and he just can't stand watching her technique anymore, because he just feels it's just way too off. So Vegeta decides to take a pause in his own training and go towards Fox. Basically, he wants her to actually do the fighting positions correctly. Vegeta decides to walk towards Fox, and basically says, straight up to her face, "You're doing that all wrong. Your footing is just way too massive. Your punches don't have a lot of force because you keep on freaking moving your arms too much. You're wasting a lot of energy and not getting enough force." Vegeta takes his hand and basically goes onto her arm, trying to see if it's steady. He basically fixes her fists so it is actually in the correct position, making sure her stance isn't as wide. He's basically micromanaging almost every single facet. Vegeta is finally done, and he tells her, throw another punch. What if Vegeta was in the Gargoyles cartoon universe, part 26? Fox felt like she was getting quite the workout. Like everything, every muscle in her body hurt like hell. But she couldn't knock the advice that Vegeta was giving. Like every punch, every kick, just felt like it could do a lot more damage now. At first, when Vegeta was giving her some insight, she took it almost as an insult, like he was trying to degrade her or look down on her. But he was actually really genuinely trying to help her get better. And this really gave Fox some insight into Vegeta. It seems he didn't care regardless if she was female or male. He just wanted her to actually do the moves correctly. And she had to respect him for that. David decides that he's had enough of paperwork for today. He actually really wants to go into their training area and also see Fox. David just sees both Vegeta and Fox just sparring with one another, and he can't really explain it, but he feels like her motions are a lot more fluid than last time. And even though David kind of distracted him for a second, it still didn't give Fox enough time to actually give him a strike. And even if she did, it wouldn't physically hurt him, but it would have been at least a nice change of pace. Vegeta feels like Fox has earned a rest. The typical humans training and workouts, he kinda just says it kinda varies, but she's rather impressive for someone who has little to no ki. Vegeta decides that he wants to train David. He really wants to know if this guy can actually fight or not. He has a feeling that he's not as skilled as him by a mile, but curiosity just seems to get the best of him. "So, dumbass, are you just gonna stand there and stare, or are you gonna actually work out?" David decides that he'll give it a shot. He's trained for a while, and he knows how to do judo and a bit of other martial arts. He figures that he at least has somewhat of a chance to at least knock Vegeta down once at least. That was indeed a huge mistake on his part, and one he hopes to never make again. Not once did David Zanatos bring Vegeta down, and it kind of hurts his pride a little bit. Also, it doesn't help that his wife is basically giggling at the fact he fell down every single time. And Vegeta is just finding this the most funny thing in the world. Amusing.
What if Vegeta was in the Gargoyles cartoon universe, part 27? It seems to be just a typical day in the Zanatos household. Just a lot of scheming and planning and a lot of other boring stuff that Vegeta really didn't have the mind to really pay attention to. Except for this recent little plan that his employer is trying to do. Apparently he wants to gain immortality by taking a second of every single person's life in New York City. Vegeta has this sense that this is gonna go wrong somehow. He just has that feeling that this is not gonna go right. Vegeta doesn't have very many good experiences with Demona, considering the two that he has thus far didn't end very well. First, there was the one with her bringing him into this universe without his consent at all. And then the second one with the whole time travel shenanigans. And even though they're both getting something out of one another, Vegeta feels like this whole entire partnership will fall in the wayside eventually. Even though Vegeta sees Demona mostly as a nuisance, he also understands her predicament, at least to some degree. He also had, everything in his life taken away from him, and he blamed that entirely on Frieza. And then when Goku killed Frieza, Vegeta had a freaking obsession to kill Goku. And that obsession took away what was left to live for. Vegeta decides that he's gonna take a few minutes to himself and decides to just go off into the restroom or something. Then when he gets back, he finds Owen is a statue and puts two and two together that something may have just gone wrong. Vegeta just looks out towards the building and notices that a helicopter is starting to go down. And he also figures that the key signature of David and Fox is in there and they're about to crash. So he decides to go and save them. Vegeta gets the helicopter from the bottom and then just slowly de-escalates it so that it doesn't end up freaking crashing to the floor. David gets out of the helicopter, grabs a weapon, and then looks directly at Vegeta. And Vegeta looks directly at him with a smug look on his face. Vegeta doesn't even have to say a word to point out that David Zanatos' plan did not go the way he wanted. If anything, the statues were kind of nice though. What if Vegeta was in the Gargoyles cartoon universe, part 28? Now it's just Vegeta and David, walking around in the city, noticing that the majority of them are now statues. When they discover that there is literally no one out there that isn't already a statue, they end up going back to David Zanatos' building. So how Demona's plan works is she's having them go out and release a whole bunch of gas that is supposed to go in a blaze, setting the sky on fire, reversing the spell. Thing about that is they don't know that she's going to have their little bombs set prematurely and have them also die in the explosion. What she doesn't count on is Vegeta, because his existence ruins her plan. And this is how it went. Is there anyone in this building that isn't a moron? You do know that you guys don't need to do all this theatrics, right? Well, Vegeta, it's been a while since I've heard your voice. So, what's your great plan? It's very simple. Just send your stupid drone things to release the gas, and then I will ignite it. It literally would take me just 2 seconds. One special key blast, or just me generating fire out of my hand, and poof, the sky is ablaze. I have a feeling that Demona was hoping you guys would go out there like a bunch of morons. Demona is in the midst of a fight with Macbeth, who is her longtime freaking enemy, and they are just going at it with one another. And both of them don't seem to notice that the sky is now on fire. Demona looks up to the sky and she realizes that it's been set ablaze and that her plan just went completely down the drain. Demona decides that she's going to use Plan B. She had some extra explosives that she put around New York City, and basically she's going to try and kill as many people as she possibly can. She might not be able to get all of them, but she will get the majority. And only she knows the password that can stop those explosives from going off. Goliath separates Macbeth and Demona and tries to plead with them that this is just madness, and that Demona should really give away the passcode so that so many lives don't end up being lost. Vegeta's patience is now wearing extremely thin, so he basically goes in front of Goliath, grabs Macbeth by his freaking chest, and then throws him at a freaking wall. Macbeth is now out for the count, and now Vegeta has to save this city. What if Vegeta was in the Gargoyles cartoon universe, part 29? So apparently Demona set off bombs that will go off if they don't get a password to deactivate them. Vegeta figures that he needs to get the password out of Demona, and he doesn't entrust these two idiots to get it out of her. And as he is walking by, suddenly there's this mist fog that just seems to be surrounding them for some reason. And then there's these 3 random witch women that Vegeta didn't sense until now. And before Vegeta can actually speak and demand the password from Demona, these 3 start circling around her, basically enlisting everything that Demona has done wrong, such as getting her clan killed, betraying not only her love but the castle she was protecting, and then betraying Macbeth to the Brits and ended up getting the rest of the Gargoyles killed. And when Vegeta keeps on hearing about Demona's mistakes and how she just keeps spiraling into the same routine, and Vegeta gets the sense that Demona is in fact the cause of her own misery, but it's also understandable her hatred for humanity, and in such a way that he can feel a sense of just almost like he's looking at what he could have been had he allowed his hatred to just fester any longer than it needed to. Vegeta decides that he's going to do something that he's never really done before. Empathize with somebody. Truly understanding the pain that someone else is going through. So he walks towards Demona and tries to be as non-dominating as possible. And as she just looks directly into Vegeta's eyes, still dazed because of the witch's magic that is not controlling her, but making suggestions to her, Vegeta decides to speak to her. Demona, let me tell you how this little hate wheel goes. You're finally gonna get that sense of gratification because you have finally destroyed the very thing you've hated for years. And then you realize that in your entire goddamn life, that was the only thing that you were living for. You finally completed your mission, but what is there after that? Absolutely goddamn nothing. What if Vegeta was in the Gargoyles cartoon universe part 30? As soon as he got the password and David Zanatos was able to put the password into the computer, everything was now finally over. Or at least Vegeta thought. As soon as everything was starting to come to a close, for some reason Vegeta just felt this sense of calmness. Like he'd not slept in days. And then he just blacked out. Demona and Macbeth were knocked out. And it didn't really take all that much power for them to do so. But with Vegeta, it was a little bit harder. All of them combined their magic power to ensure that Vegeta would be able to pass right out as soon as they needed to. When Vegeta opened his eyes, he was in this weird place. He could sense key signatures, but very faintly, like it was very, very far away for some reason. And then suddenly Vegeta gets this pain inside of his head, and he can't get it to stop. Vegeta was getting these stinging pains in his head. It felt like Babidi was trying to control him all over again, as if someone were trying to force him to do something. But Vegeta, with his Saiyan stubbornness, would not give in to the orders. He kept on screaming, shouting. He just wanted to make sure that whoever this person was, that they were not going to take the Prince of Saiyans down easily. Both Demona and Macbeth are now being used as tools to go and find these little artifacts for some reason. Both of them unaware of why they're even doing it. The archmage kept on looking at Vegeta, very intrigued by him, because it seems like whatever force of magic that he's trying to use to manipulate Vegeta's mind is just not working. And he can just sense a giant power in Vegeta, one that he's never felt, that isn't magical at all. The archmage had to put Vegeta in a very special kind of prison. Energy type waves of magic had to surround Vegeta at all times to keep him from trying to break out. And the amount of magical power it's taking to just keep Vegeta bound is intense. It takes the archmage and 3 of the witches to combine all their power to basically get Vegeta back into a calm-like state. The 3 witches were able to put Vegeta asleep, but now Vegeta just seems to be intently trying to push them out of his head. But even with Vegeta's stubbornness, they were able to put him back to sleep.
What if Vegeta was in the Gargoyles cartoon universe, part 31? The Archmage was just putting Vegeta through hell. Now, the Archmage doesn't know how to fully utilize Vegeta, because Vegeta seems to always be resisting any time they try to mind control him. And so it ends up just being a daily routine of Vegeta wakes up, they try to mind control him, they can't, and then they have to put him back to sleep. A battle is almost set, and the main players are almost in place. Goliath, Elisa, and a guardian named Tom have finally reached the island of Avalon. Goliath is getting a sixth sense about this place. It's starting to feel very worrisome for some reason. Like there's something very dangerous upon the island, but he can't really pinpoint what. And in that moment, Vegeta woke up.